But I do have a baseball question for you, if I may.
Yes.
I know you wanted to go in a different direction, but here's the deal.
No, we're going to baseball, but go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to give you the statistics, and you tell me if the person is worthy of the Hall of Fame. As a manager, 1,051 wins and 990 losses, a World Series championship. He's one of 12 managers to have 1,000 wins as a manager, and he's won 1,146 games in the minor leagues. Does he belong in the Hall of Fame? I'll tell you who he is.
Yeah.
Trader Jack McKeon.
Yeah, Trader Jack. His record is, 500 basically. He only won the one World Series. What was that, with Florida?
Yeah, Marlins.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get in.
1,000 wins.
We talked about it before. We got 900 losses, though. I mean,
know.
So that's what hurts him, even though he won a World Series, and that shouldn't be automatic. You have Cito Gaston, who won back-to-back World Series with the Blue Jays. He's not in. How is Trader Jack going to be in it?
Well, I just think longevity, perhaps.
No, I'm not. But Cito Gaston, back-to-back.
Yeah, you're right. But I thought and the possibility that he was a general manager too, served as a GM in San Diego.
I like the nickname. I don't know how good he was, Trader Jack. All right,
Trader Jack. Okay.
Let's do this and talk some more baseball. Spring training's underway. Bryce Harper is one of the big stars in baseball. We know that with the Phillies. Got his team to the World Series 2 years ago. Last year they were on the cusp of going again, right? And Arizona was the buzzsaw that knocked off the Phillies. But this is interesting, and Rob G, I want you to jump in, because Bryce Harper, when he signed that massive, 13-year contract in Philly, he didn't take an out clause, and he still has 8 years left, Rob G. I want to get to all the details right, and he wants an extension.
That is correct, Rob Parker. Now, according to his agent, Scott Boras told him at the winter meeting, or told him before he signed the contract, hey, we want to put some opt-outs in your contract. It's a way we can cash in later, assuming you outplay your contract, which at the time was huge, but we think you're going to do even better. Bryce Harper's like, no, hell no. I'm committed to Philadelphia. I don't need an opt-out. And now, with 8 years left on his deal, Scott Boras is telling people at the winter meetings, and it came up again this week, that he does want a new contract. He wants an extension since he can't get a new deal. He's got 8 years left on his deal. He plans on playing until his mid-40s. His current contract ends at age 38. So even though Bryce Harper has been everything and more which he could have asked for in Philadelphia, he might not be all too happy with his current contract situation.
I'm going to say this, Andy.
He's underpaid.
He deserves a new deal.
Yes.
Because he's been everything that the Phillies could have wanted. I mean, you want to talk about embracing the city, the gritty, grimy, that team and the way he did, got them to the World Series. They didn't win it. He's won the MVP there. Bryce Harper is the face of that team without question, and fans love him.
By Major League standards right now, since he signed that contract, he is grossly underpaid.
So now he's the 29th highest paid player, I believe.
And if you look at the 28 players in front of him, he has more MVPs than any one of those players. More.
Because Bryce has 2.
Right. And the point is this, I'm more impressed with the individual statistic here than the team statistic, because that's how you get paid. What have you done for me lately? And here's the deal. The Phillies better sign him. They got to sign him. I don't think they got a choice.
No, I think they have a choice.
Yeah, they could trade him.
He has 8 years left. I mean, and that's why you have to be careful. I talk about this, me and Chris, all the time, Andy, about team-friendly deals, like doing a situation where you get tied in, because when push comes to shove, it's business. And they don't owe him anything other than what he signed up for. You don't want a disgruntled player, but they're not doing him wrong. When they went on the limb and signed him to a 13-year contract for all that money, right?
Yeah.
He was happy. He popped the champagne. He celebrated signing the long-term deal. People thought he was crazy. People thought the Phillies were crazy. But it could have been very easy, and he's always got to remember the reason you want an out. Manny Machado had an out, and he got a new deal with the Padres. He opted out, and then they re-signed him for more money. That's all Bryce Harper had to do, and his commitment to being in Philly could have still been in place. I don't want to go anywhere. If they sign me and they, up my pay to get me more on part of where I need to be, then I don't think this is an issue. But the Phillies, if you own the store, Andy, you don't owe him any more money.
Right. The good news is he's not a holdout. There's no holdout situation here. And what's going to happen, he's going to finish his career as a Philadelphia Philly, and I think that they're going to extend it. Now, if there's a problem, if the front office of the Philadelphia Phillies think it's a problem, they say, look, he's going to be 42 years of age. I don't think he's going to be that productive at that age. They can trade him. I don't think they will. I think that there'll be too much pushback if, in fact, they do trade him. Right now, he's making $25 million plus this year, the 2024 salary. And again, I say it's ranked 29th in the Major League Baseball. And honestly, I mean, he's underpaid as opposed to Major League Baseball standards right now. When he signed the 13-year deal for $330 million, it was big. He's 31 years old now. Can he still produce at the age of 38? Because he's got the 8 years left in that contract. But I think that what he's given to the city of Philadelphia and the Phillies, they need to give him that contract, and I think they will.
Well, I think he's earned everything he's gotten in Philadelphia. And if you want to be nice, could you do something to add? But I'm not doing another 4-year extension from 38 to 42. And you know how baseball is, all sports. The next guy up gets the big contract. Dak Prescott can't win a postseason game, a big game for the Cowboys. He's going to get $60-something million. Not because he's the best quarterback in the league, right?
It's
Andy?
the going rate. It's
the going rate, and his time is now.
Right.
It's based on that. So if you do this for Bryce Harper, then the next guy comes along and gets a contract, right? Then Juan Soto gets a deal because he hits 40 home runs for the Yankees, and then somebody offers him $500 million.
But
now
I sometimes
what?
think, Robbie, sometimes players get paid for what they've accomplished, not for what they
I agree.
may be
In
doing.
baseball, that is the case, 100%. Right. But do you see what I'm saying? Like as time goes on, he's always going to feel like I'm underpaid. And I get it. I've always said life is a 3-year contract. That's probably what everybody should be signed to. But owners started doing a long-term contract, Andy, because they wanted to have their costs fixed, right? I want to know what my cost is going to be over 10 years, which is a better deal for owners because things only go up, right? So as a player, if you bet on yourself and you take a 3 or 4 year deal and you keep doing that, then you have a shot to always be in the mix on what the current and the going rate is and based on your value.
But I'm going to go one step further. I think that the Philadelphia Phillies higher-ups, the management, the ownership, they have to realize, yes, he's produced for us on the field. He's a fan favorite. He's helped the box office. But more than that, I think that Bryce Harper has created a destination for free agents. Kyle Schwarber came to Philadelphia, I think, for one of the reasons he wanted to play with Bryce Harper. And it's a major plus for the Philadelphia Phillies having him there as an attraction for free agents.
I think so, but also the money. I mean, Trey Turner got $300 million,
Right.
So let's not make it like Trey Turner came for a cup of coffee and a sweet roll. He came for $300 million, and it's great that Bryce Harper's there.
And he wanted to play with Bryce Harper, probably.
I get that, and that's a part of it. But you got to be careful because the point is, when is enough enough? Because if he signs this, if you sign him to 4 more years, that's a 12-year contract. He still could be unhappy in 3 years because guess what? Baseball explodes and gambling becomes a bigger deal and teams are making more money or Amazon buys the network for baseball. You know what I mean? Or whatever the deal
exactly
could
right.
be.
But I'm more concerned, as you said, from the age 38 to 42 because that's when it declines big time, and we saw it in Cincinnati with Joey Votto. He went down the crapper fast. He really did.
Not a Hall of Famer. I'm sorry.
I'm with you.
Okay.
I don't think Joey Votto is a Hall of Fame. He had a couple of good years, a couple of decent years.
And he was a very good player. He was.
Defensively, he's poor.
Right.
Although I don't think defense counts as for Hall of Fame voting. I really don't.
No, well, I mean, Brooks Robinson was a great defender, better than a hitter, and that 15 gold gloves.
Right.
Ozzie Smith won 14 straight gold gloves at shortstop. I mean,
right.
pretty
And the first base position is backed up so big time, that's going to hurt him as well. That position is really backed up.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like
so
the receiver.
Many stars. Exactly.
Like the receiver position in football.
Yep. No doubt. So I'm saying that he's earned a new deal, but I don't think he's going to get it, and I understand why. And I think the Phillies, and so you think the Phillies should tear that deal up and give him a new one, or just give him a raise?
Not only do I think so, I think they will. And I think the fact that he wants to remain with them, that's huge. I mean, really, he doesn't want to go on the open market. However, if the Philadelphia Phillies decide not to extend it, I think the only option they could do is trade him, because he's going to be very distraught and not happy remaining in Philadelphia, not getting that extension. So they got to trade him then, right?
If he's unhappy, he signed the deal. I don't know, how unhappy. It's not like he's making peanuts, but I do understand he's underpaid. All right, 877-99 on Fox, 877-996-6369. We want to hear from you. Does Bryce Harper deserve a new deal in Philadelphia? He's got 8 years left on his contract.
Let me run this by you for a second. I mean, we talk about this, Josh, the Harper thing, all right? And
Bryce Harper.
Right. But we talk about the Harper story and the contract, the extension, whatever it may be. I'm not so certain this is a story on the tongues of everybody in America. Why do I say that? Baseball, in my mind, has become a regional sport. If it was the National Football League with a lesser-known talent looking for a contract extension, I think people would go bonkers. But because it's baseball, and maybe I'm wrong. What's your take on that?
I'm going to say you're wrong, because what we get all the time, we do more baseball on a national level than any other show, and I say that with confidence. And our topics, people jump on, we have conversations. It has to be interesting. Any topic you do has to be interesting.
I agree.
So I just think when a sport sells 70 million tickets, I can't subscribe to that. When a sport pays a player $700 million, you can't tell me the sport's going anywhere or that people aren't interested. I'm going to spring training to the Dodgers this weekend. You can't get into place.
Right, but I will say this much: I think that people would rather talk about a situation in the world of sports than a guy's contract when he's making X amount of million and he wants even more.
I get it.
Right?
I mean, it just depends.
That's a turnoff. That to me is a turnoff.
It depends. 877-99 on Fox.
Let's go to the phones. Josh in Utah, you're on the Odd Couple. Hello, Josh.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, guys. Appreciate it. Quick thought on the Bryce Harper situation. He signed a contract. That 10 years, whatever the money was.
It was 13 years, 330, Josh. 13 years, 330.
If he wants, and these players, if they want the option to come back to the negotiating table every 3 or 4 years, but they need to go to the MLBPA and have that language put in these contracts. The MLBPA is the strongest players association in all of professional sports. I have no doubt that they can get that language put into these contracts, that these players can come back to the negotiating table and get their market value if they want.
Here, Josh, let me say this. Stay on the line. Here's the problem. They want their cake and eat it too. If I get a long-term deal and I'm guaranteed a certain amount of money, right? So that looks good to them. If I have a team option after 3 or 4 years and then I have a bad year or two, do you see what I'm saying? Now it's going to hurt me, and I'm not going to be guaranteed that money. So that's the problem that you have, and is that you want the guarantee and the stability of the long-term deal. It's like Tatis when he signed that deal. He's like 22 years old, $300 million. I'm sorry. You're 22 and somebody gives you $322 guaranteed, you got to take it. Juan Soto and his people, to turn down $500 million, Andy. He turned down $500 million from the Nationals. I don't know if he'll ever get that again. That's crazy to me.
It is. And when Bryce Harper says that he's basically, and his people say he's basically underpaid by Major League Baseball standards now, it's very similar. Maybe it's a stretch. It's similar to the housing market. You buy a house 5 years ago, it's worth probably 3 times as much as it was when you paid for it back then. That's just the way it is. Things go up. Everything goes up.
Right. I just think once you sign a deal, and you got to be careful. You remember in The Last Dance with Scottie Pippen, everybody told him not to sign the deal, right? And he signed it. And he was grossly underpaid for a long time in his career. It's sad. And you say, well, the Bulls should have done this or that. He signed the deal.
And you could come back and say, well, Bryce Harper signed the deal. But he's got the Phillies, I guess, to some extent, backed up against the wall, doesn't he? Think about it.
You think that he's going to get the deal.
Oh, he will get the deal. And if he doesn't get the deal, they're going to trade him. Those are the options. He either stays a Philly with the deal, or if they say, no, we're not going to give it to you, they're going to put him on the market because they're not going to want him out there sulking.
No, I get it. You don't want an unhappy player, and he's performed. There's no doubt that he's made the Phillies a destination and a contender. We thought they were going to the World Series back-to-back. Remember, they were up 2-0 against Arizona, weren't they?
Yeah, and let me make a comparison here because, he's grossly underpaid by Major League standards today, but when he signed, as you said, 13 years, $330 million. Do you know what today's date is? 1963 on this date? This is the day that Mickey Mantle signed his $100,000 contract.
Unbelievable.
Right? In 1963, today was the day. So what would Mantle be? Would he be grossly underpaid? I mean, it's just the way it's the nature of the beast. That's the way it is. Prices go up.
And that's what I'm saying. 3 years from now, you don't know what the money is. We had Hojo on earlier. What did he say? First thing he thought of when Shohei got the $700 million. Who's going to get $1 billion?
Right.
And that's going to, Andy, we might see that. Who's going to get $1 billion?
It's going to happen with TV revenue, TV monies, expansion. They may expand again, and if they expand, owners get expansion money. They do that all the time.
No doubt. All right, the Dallas Cowboys still haven't learned their lesson. The Cowboys are over a barrel, Andy, and you notice with the salary cap and this phony salary cap the NFL has, and if you cut somebody, you get penalized, and so you got to give the guy more money and kick the can down the road. So now they're looking at Dak Prescott, who failed miserably in the playoff game against Green Bay this year and has struggled. I think he's 2-5 in the playoffs.
Yes.
And he's going to make $60 million. Is Rob G, am I off?
A little bit, because Rob, you mentioned the salary cap. The salary cap's the big thing, right? Because you can make $25 million, but your cap number is only 2, so then you're fine. Well, where the Cowboys are in trouble is that Dak Prescott's cap number for next season is $59.4 million, which is a ridiculous number for a guy of his caliber. They'd obviously like to get that cap number down. So in order to do so, they either got to, number one, restructure, number two, release or trade him, or number three, most likely, sign him to a new contract that'll pay him the money that he wants.
And spread it out.
But lower his cap number, correct.
Push it to 2026.
Right. So Bleacher Report reported last week that Dak Prescott is looking to get $60 million per season in his new contract. That doesn't mean his cap number will be $60 million, but he'll get $60 million in actual money. That's important because currently the highest paid quarterback in the NFL in terms of average annual value is Joe Burrow at 55. So he's looking to obliterate the quarterback market. Stephen Jones spoke to reporters on Tuesday and asked about Dak Prescott's future. And all he would say is that we, quote, absolutely want to get Dak back in Dallas on a new contract.
You know why? You know why he said that? One word. What's his options? That's the key. He's got him over a barrel. You said it, Rob. What is the option? It's the same old thing. It's the devil you know as opposed to the devil you don't. That's why this quarterback position is such a valuable position, because there's no option.
It is, Andy, but you need to pay the player, not the position. That's the problem I have in the NFL. They just pay just because you're a quarterback. Who am I thinking of? I just in with the Giants. Daniel Jones got a ridiculous. Andy, He can't. He's not that good. They
agree.
paid him a ton of money. Rob G, can you get those numbers again? I just
On
forgot.
the other side of the coin, they're not paying their running backs. Think about that.
Right,
They're
but I'm
not.
just saying Daniel Jones didn't get paid off of his value or his ability. He got he threw 16 touchdowns in 17 games, and he got a ridiculous contract, and it was based on paying the quarterback a quarterback salary rather than Daniel Jones's real value.
Right, because if you look at the NFL, those teams that are on the sidelines and didn't make the playoffs this year had B-rated quarterbacks. That's the bottom line. You got a starting
but they're
quarterback.
still paying a Daniel Jones, who to me is a B-rated quarterback, money. I mean,
I agree with you.
That's my issue. And Dak Prescott, there's no penalty for being awful in the postseason. There's you get a raise and you become the highest paid quarterback by
Lamar
turning
Jackson
the
didn't get
stinker that he
penalized.
had.
He wasn't too keen in the offseason, in the postseason for a while, Lamar Jackson, right? He had his problems in the postseason. I just have a problem with the quarterback getting all the praise and all the blame. But again, without a quarterback, without a franchise quarterback, so to speak, you're in trouble in the NFL. But Prescott did lead the NFL with 36 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, I get that, but in the games that matter most, Andy, I mean, we could sit there and talk about, how many games they won. They've won 12 games, 3 years in a row or something, and all those kind of things, and I get it. But the postseason play, which is the Cowboys, they're still looking for a trip to the NFC Championship game for the first time in almost 30 years. Just think about that.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I understand it. He was the runner-up to Lamar Jackson for the MVP, and he passed for those 36
Yeah, but it wasn't
touchdowns.
close. I mean,
Right.
he was runner-up by a big difference, a miles difference. I just think that there's got to be a better way, and this is the problem, and this is a bigger story, but a conversation. But that's why the salary cap is just fraudulent. Like it really, really is. And people try to convince each other that you got to have the same amount of money in order to compete equally. And if you have a bad general manager, it doesn't matter how much money they're giving you.
Right.
Andy, you can
Because he does not
misspend
handle
the
it.
money. You could have a bad scouting department and not scout the right players. There's so many other decisions. It's not strictly based on money. The teams that have the most money in baseball, Dodgers, Red Sox, Mets, Yankees, they have like one championship between them in the last 10 years. You know,
Look at Tampa Bay.
this is
Yeah,
what
look
I'm
at
trying to
that.
say. So
Right,
it's
yeah.
not based on just the money aspect, and that's what they do in the NFL. It's a mistake. The players should never agree to a cap under the guise of it being about competitive balance, because that's not what it's about. It's about owners trying to hold down their costs. That's the only thing a salary cap does.
Right, you know what? You're exactly right. And I go back to the Giants. Daniel Jones, obviously, it's amazing what he's getting. It's amazing what they signed him for.
What did he sign him to? Give it to me again, because I forgot.
It was like $70 million, something like that. I think it was. It was a tremendous contract, and I couldn't believe it because he hadn't done anything, and they still upped it, and they gave him that new contract. But I'll go back even further. When they signed Saquon Barkley, when they drafted him, no one's drafting running back. There will not be a running back drafted in the first round of this April draft this year. They just don't do it, and the Giants drafted him real early, and I was shocked. He was a great player at Penn State, I know that, but in the NFL, in today's NFL, you don't draft running backs early on. You just don't.
And Daniel Jones got 4 years, 160. Like, how? 4 years, 160. I'd ask you, Andy, based on what? Just crazy. They're paying the position, not the player.